10 secrets hidden in the opening theme of House of the Dragons explored. House of the Dragon is essentially an action drama that focuses on interpersonal rifts between members of the Targaryen family, and their power struggle is what breathes fire into the show, and naturally, this struggle will also spill blood. However, how did a dynasty that lasted for 300 years come into existence in the first place? While one can read the books or tomes of Wiki, the opening credit scene of the show details the history of the Targaryen rule of Westeros from the very beginning, that is, the Doom of Valyria. The blood-soaked opening credit scene has several streams of blood passing through various caverns, crevices, and gorges. All through the path, we see several sigils, some getting submerged, while the others remain safe. The blood streams essentially represent the Targaryen family tree, and the sigils represent the greatest turning points, like notable kings and queens. The sigils that get drowned are the families that have been lost, while the ones that don't are the ones who still have a future in the show. In this video, we will explore everything that you need to know about the opening credits scene of House of the Dragon. Let's Dracarys!
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The Doom of Valyria. The first scene that we see in the opening credits is the Doom of Valyria. The carving is pretty detailed for us to understand just how it was that the Valyrian freehold ceased to bathe in fiery glory. You see, the Doom came upon the majestic millennia-old civilization because of a cataclysmic event. All of Valyria found itself covered in fire, ash, and pumice due to a chain of volcanic eruptions. The event was so disastrous that even dragons could not survive. This was much along the lines of the lost city of Pompeii, where eruptions from Mount Vesuvius killed an entire city in 72 AD. And if you have even a passing knowledge of Martin's work, you would know that he takes a lot of inspiration from ancient and medieval historical events. Nevertheless, House Targaryen survived because Daenerys the Dreamer alerted her father, Lord Aenar Targaryen, just in time, because she had foreseen the Doom of Valyria in one of her dreams. Aenar took his wealth, family, and slaves, and came to Westeros. 12 years later, House Targaryen was the only house that had dragons. Anyway, the blood fills this ornate carving and it starts to flow across a gully of sorts. Aegon the Conqueror. Just after the blood fills the carving, we get to see a crown of sorts. This crown belongs to Aegon I, the man who conquered Westeros and started an empire that would last for the next 3 centuries. The Great King had been mentioned in HBO's Game of Thrones more than often, and we know many things about him. He built the Iron Throne using Balerion's fire, fought and rode with his sister wives, Rhaenys and Visenya, etc. However, House of the Dragon tells us more about this great ruler. It turns out that Aegon did not conquer Westeros just because he could. He had experienced a prophetic dream, according to which only a Targaryen ruling the 7 kingdoms could avert the darkness that winter would bring along. Yeah, the White Walkers. Aegon became the symbol of purity of bloodline and prophetic dreams. 2 things that are rather synonymous with House Targaryen. Coming back to the opening credits, the blood drowns Aegon's crown and then branches out into 2 streams, one major, the other minor. Mrs. Rhaenys Targaryen. The major stream is representative of Aegon's sister wife, Rhaenys Targaryen. The reason she gets priority is that Rhaenys' son, Aenys, was the one to sit on the Iron Throne after his father, Aegon. In the books, Rhaenys dies while trying to bring the Kingdom of Dorne into the Targaryen fold. She was knocked down by a weapon similar to what Bronn uses to injure Drogon in Game of Thrones. For a woman who was gentle and mature, Rhaenys met a tragic end. The blood then flows further ahead. Mrs. Visenya Targaryen. The minor bloodstream from Aegon's crown enters another sigil, which belongs to Visenya Targaryen, Aegon's elder sister and wife. But why does the elder sister get less importance? Well, Aegon's firstborn son was Aenys Targaryen, but he died soon after ascending to the throne. After his death, Visenya's son Maegor seized the throne for himself from Aenys' son, who was the rightful heir. Maegor was known to be a crude and ruthless man who killed thousands of septas and septons. He finished the construction of the Red Keep, including the stronghold, but killed the men who built it. Maegor earned the title of Maegor the Cruel, and that's probably why his bloodline is rushed through into darkness. Maegor died on the Iron Throne, and some believe that the throne itself killed him for being a vastly unjust ruler. Aenys I. Much like Viserys Targaryen, Aenys was a watered-down Targaryen. Although he was wise and just, he was a sickly man. Grandmaster Gawain reported that King Aenys was a man of 35, but looked like someone over 60 years of age. I mean, come on. That's what you expect when you inbreed. Nevertheless, Aenys was the one who sent his cousin Maegor to exile, but Maegor returned when he learned of Aenys' death. He usurped the throne, and 2 of Aenys' eldest sons died in battle, trying to get the kingdom back. However, when Maegor was found butchered, the throne passed over to Aenys' last son, Jaehaerys Targaryen, the Old King. The blood then flows through Aenys' sigil and enters into a dark sigil. Any guess as to whom this one might belong to? Well, this has to be Maegor, but since he brought such shame to the Targaryens that his bloodline is kept hidden. Jaehaerys Targaryen. Immediately after, the blood flows quickly to reach what looks like the old king's crown, and it is joined by the bloodstream from his sister wife Alysanne's sigil. The two had been close to each other since childhood, and the wise king had loved his good queen since forever. Here we see that their combined bloodline branches out into several smaller rivulets. Yes, Jaehaerys had 13 children. However, in the end, none of his sons survived, and Jaehaerys was left with no obvious heir. This is what called for the Great Council, in which the Lords of Westeros choose the king's grandson, Viserys Targaryen, the heir to the Iron Throne after surpassing Rhaenys Targaryen, Jaehaerys' granddaughter. Anyway, all the other streams are ignored, and the camera follows 2 streams that emerge from Jaehaerys and Alysanne. Alyssa and Baelon Targaryen. These 2 streams belong to Baelon Targaryen and his sister wife Alyssa. One thing to note here is that Baelon was the 3rd son of Jaehaerys Targaryen, so why was he given more importance? The answer is quite obvious, actually. Jaehaerys' 2 eldest sons, Aemon and Aegon, had died before Jaehaerys himself, and the Targaryen line of succession was forwarded by Baelon's son Viserys. Had Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was, ascended the throne after Jaehaerys, we would have seen her father Aemon and her mother Jocelyn Baratheon's sigils instead of Baelon and Alyssa's. Nevertheless, Baelon had 2 sons, Viserys and Daemon.
That I am happy to share. Queen Aemma has begun her labors.
Viserys and Aemma. After this point, we see the combined stream from Baelon and Alyssa divided into 2 parts. Again, one major and another minor. The minor stream represents Daemon Targaryen, the younger brother of King Viserys, whom the elder stream represents. And rightfully so. This stream goes on to join another stream with the sigil of House Arryn, belonging to Aemma Arryn of Vale. Their combined bloodstream flows swiftly further, but then the scene breaks continuity. For a brief period, we see 2 of the ocean blue colored House Velaryon sigils, but Viserys had turned down Corlys Velaryon's offer to wed Laena Velaryon, and therefore no importance is given to House Velaryon in the opening credit. However, Rhaenyra may marry Laenor Targaryen in later episodes, and we may see some blood flowing here as well. The House Hightower. Frankly, House Hightower was probably the easiest one to decipher in the opening credits scene. Well, because of the obvious high towers. There are 2 of these structures, one placed on a higher level than the other. Clearly, the one placed higher represents Otto, while the second one belongs to his daughter Alicent. Interestingly, the blood that flows from Alicent's sigil is met by another bloodstream. Well, this is because Alicent and Viserys have had their first son Aegon. In the previous entry, I mentioned how Viserys and Aemma's stream combined to move forward. This was going towards Rhaenyra's sigil, but the bloodstream representing Aegon is not far behind. However, since Aegon was not named the heir at the end of the 3rd episode, which is when this video was made, Viserys and Alicent's blood simply seemed to stop where they joined. Likewise, Daemon's bloodstream will also be given more meandering paths to follow in the future episodes, after he marries Rhaenyra and sires children with her. Rhaenyra Targaryen. Next, the blood flows towards Rhaenyra's sigil, which looks exactly like the Valyrian steel necklace that Daemon had gifted her in the first episode. She doesn't have a crown yet, and rightly so. However, Rhaenyra is not married, and the bloodstream should stop, right? No, that's not what happens. The blood then flows deeper. But wait. At this point, we see a rock engraving that looks like all of Westeros under the wings of a dragon. This is to symbolize that House Targaryen must unite all of Westeros against a common enemy. Lastly, the blood flows through what it looks exactly like the scale model that Viserys had built in the first episode. The model was reminiscent of old Valyria, and blood flowing from all corners could depict several things, such as the practice of blood magic in old Valyria. Contrarily, it could also mean that there was no single royal family, but several noble houses. However, I personally believe that Old Valyria was being used as a metaphor for contemporary Westeros, because the blood then flows straight into the three-headed red-on-black dragon sigil belonging to House Targaryen. It could signify the end of dragons after the Dance of the Dragons, which is also called the Death of the Dragons. I would reiterate that this video was made after the third episode of House of the Dragon, and if you wish to learn more about the family tree of House Targaryen, keep an eye out for the next opening credit scenes.